Greetings, welcome one and all. Thank you for joining me. My name is Timothy Halloran. This video is being dropped on June 6, 2022. I am an astrologer. Now, what that means, and I mean no offense, but in our species' rediscovery of this science, there's a lot of misconceptions. So what an astrologer does is study cycles and then breaks down our experience into parts and pieces, so to understand the makeup of life itself. So in these videos, we're talking about the nature of the times, usually about a 2-week period correlated generally with the lunar cycle. And we're going to focus upon a full moon coming up on June 14th. However, what I'm really piecing together is there's going to be long-term transits, long-term themes that are affecting our whole species going on for years. So for example, I called 2020 the year of total collective reprioritization, restructuring, the reboot of our whole world. 2021 is a significant experimental breakdown of old conditioning. And this year, there's a tremendous death and rebirth, so to come back to the vitality of life, to really leave behind this old snakeskin. This is the changing of our culture, our paradigm, and our age. Now, to deliver the messages in these videos, I'm going to connect the dots between those more long-term transits and more short-term, what might be going on for just several days or several weeks. And how astrologers do this is we look at the movements of the inner planets, Moon, Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, that transit much more quickly. They form aspects to the outer planets. They connect to the more long-term themes. They activate, they trigger those more long-term themes at particular periods. Now, what's really interesting is when we look at the last Pisces age, and ages have so much to do with the collective belief system of any time, there's such a focus on transcendence, leaving this world, leaving our body, leaving what is personal in favor for what is universal, collective, monotheistic God, believing ourselves into salvation. Now, what resulted via these collective beliefs is that the smaller parts of ourselves, the more personal, the more worldly, the more egoic, we could say, all of these parts have been historically demonized. And I would honestly say the major part of my work as a healing surface is correcting these old beliefs where they cause unnatural harm to ourself or others. Now, going on these weeks, June 2022, these are the parts of our life, our psyche, our experience that are very much being highlighted, particularly the inner planets Mercury, Venus, and Mars. And especially what I'm going to shine a spotlight on in this video, highlighting this time period, is the focus of consciousness to our body, to our flesh, to our somatic experience of life, which has historically been condemned as being a trap or being anti-spiritual or leading us away from a loving orientation to life. So it's actually interesting. It's a fascinating position to be an astrologer speaking to YouTube at this particular time, because for those who are familiar with me and my work, I'm addressing this fulcrum point and this transition out of an age where what I see out there in the world, by and large, being preserved by religion, New Age belief, the stuff that's getting taught in retreats, the stuff that's getting circulated, even when it seems new, positive manifestation, priestess lineages, the divine feminine, so often it is simply a recycling of Pisces age garbage. Believe in this fantasy and you'll be saved. Believe in these beings that exist in another dimension, and they're being bypassing of the individual, our unique body, our unique wiring, the particular traumas we've experienced in the past, and how we're going to have different coping mechanisms and different healing paths for those traumas. The one-size-fits-all blanket religion and belief systems avoid this. Astrology is not a belief system. Astrology is not a religion. It gets mixed into all these things, but astrology is what you see, is what you get. Nature broken down into pieces and parts, tested, evaluated, and understood for what it is. That's the amazing thing about astrology. This is no man-made system. We can see objectively the parts and pieces that make up our experience. We can objectively understand that our mind and our thoughts are existing on a different dimension than, say, our skin and our sensual experience, but they're happening simultaneously. Okay, so we discover nature, and then astrology reflects that. And what we see going on these weeks is, again, Mercury, Venus, Mars being highlighted. It's very personal, subjective, what's going on in our immediate sphere. This is actually some of the most important bottom line directions that we're implementing right now through 2023. This is a long-term transit. The moon's north node in Taurus is about pulling ourselves out of the dramas, the interferences, the intrusion, the multi-layered complexes of getting overly wrapped up in other people's emotional, unresolved, suppressed, avoided, ulterior motivations, sexual desires, betrayal. Taurus is about sovereignty, stability, self-resourcefulness, spaciousness, slowness, appreciation of life itself. And that is found through Venus, the ruler of Taurus, which rules the five senses. Our somatic experience of life is the planet Venus. Venus has historically been demonized. The senses lead you away from God, lead you away from spirit, traps you on this earth, traps you in Maya, and we're trying to transcend this earth or Maya. This goes completely against the grain of the nature we're born into, the bodies we're born into, the reality that we're born into, which is every individual will have likes and dislikes. Every individual is going to have a style, flavor, and taste particular to the body that they're born into. Not everybody likes the same foods. Not everybody likes the same clothing. And historically, we've demonized. We shouldn't have that taste. We shouldn't have those desires. Why are we focusing so much on tasty food? What, are we selfish? Trying to live a comfortable life? Well, we've got a 9-to-5 job. We've got a boss to prove our hard work ethic to. We've got a priest to prove our sexual denial and suppression to. Whatever it may be. It is through body, senses, and discovering our own unique taste, 2022 through 2023, that we are integrating our consciousness into our body. Finding more stability, more self-connection, more peace, more relaxation. Now we're healing from our past traumas. Now we're able to move on from the shadows of the past. We're able to create what we want to because we have the necessary space, time to settle down, to come in. So a part of this is that we have to recognize the value of slowness, space, and nothingness, which is contrary to our societal consciousness. That's a lot of the perspective and the direction I'm taking in this particular video. Because it's true, this is what we all are healing in our system. This is our contribution back to the collective, is to move out of these false beliefs, wherever they're, debilitating. So this spaciousness it's contrary to this super fast, do more, push more, but it's going to prove to ourselves how much more capable we are when we allow for ourselves to slow down. The other major wisdom of Taurus is that we've all just come out of radically intense years, super intense transformations. Even May of this year is an eclipse portal. We're just starting to settle down into this new reality, and it takes space, time, and slowness to integrate all of this change, transformation to consciousness, us and them and the world and what we're doing. We got to take a breather here. Now, Venus these days is in her own sign of Taurus. She's joining Uranus on the 11th and joining asteroid Pallas Athena the 14th, 15th. These weeks, start of June through mid-June, it is Taurus time. Pallas Athena is a brilliant asteroid, the goddess of wisdom. She is an understanding that's so concrete, we can basically see it. A really cool asteroid to check out in your chart if you have not already. Pallas Athena in Taurus is like seeing through the senses. It is like a psychic awareness through our bodies and tuning into the soul, the psyche of another through touch, through the creation of beauty, form, expression. There's a wisdom of beauty. There's a wisdom of pleasure. There's a wisdom of enjoyment, how to use the body, the senses, pleasure for enjoyment and relaxation that is not simply selfish, that is not simply lazy or a waste of time or a distraction. This is the necessary healing of the day and age. This is how we're collectively healing from collective PTSD. Every single soul is healing from PTSD on the planet at this time. But regardless of how good or unfortunate your karma may seem on the surface, we're all healing from PTSD. This enjoyment, this wisdom of the skin and the flesh is actually brilliant, transcendental, full of mystery, full of treasures that are yet to be discovered. These are the parts and pieces of our species consciousness that have long been forgotten. Because again, I notice so much talk about the return of the divine feminine priestess lineage, and then what is that? And what's being done? And how is that affecting humanity? And how is that affecting consciousness? And is it really doing anything new or different at all? What I would suggest is that the last real feminine period ended at the tail end of Taurus. This was the great age of Babylon and Egypt. And think about how much we use the word Babylon synonymously with evil or our corrupt society. And that's unfortunate because early Babylon and early Egypt was the period of Venus, the great earth goddess. And there is so much focus on the hanging gardens and the beauty of the earth and the creation of sensual enjoyment being at the root of human experience. What drives our capacity to feel, to be alive, to have energy, to have drive. If it's all work and no play, if it's all talk and disassociation, and working in these realms and connecting with other people, it has no contact with the earth, the body, the flesh, or what's right in front of us in the present. Is it real? Is it doing anything? Or is the whole thing a mirage and an illusion? Well, what I am happy to tell to you is that a part of your rediscovery these weeks may even be a remembering of these long forgotten periods or ages. And we know how much the Egyptians were into oils and touch and skin. And it was Taurus that was the belief system. Again, the age reflects the collective belief system. So age of Taurus, preservation, treasures, and the Egyptians are all into preserving their things to take into the afterlife. Taurus, Taurus, Taurus. Masturbation. The whole world is created by Adam masturbating. Taurus, age. Babylon, the sacred prostitutes, the working with the flesh and the sense and the working with the plants and the incenses. This was not all just evil, demon, succubus land, the way that we've historically had it taught to us. Because the history that we know comes from the tail end age of Taurus. And the end of an age is when that age becomes distorted. So we hear about how effed up the Babylons and the Egyptians were because it did get really effed up. It did get really super distorted and messed up. And then you had really abusive, powerful pimp figures and, God complex figures that had sex slaves. And yes, all this historically happened, but we did throw the baby out with the bathwater. The Abrahamic religion condemned sexuality. And then the age of Pisces, all of this sacrifice and, just giving yourself. And it's not about throwing the baby out with the bathwater in the Pisces age either. Pisces age is where we become self-aware as a collective. The whole world is now interconnected through the internet at the cusp of the Aquarius age. Shouldn't there be some wisdom about unconditional love and loving thy neighbor, even if thy neighbor is a different culture, different tradition, different past? That's the wisdom of Pisces that we're not throwing out. The delusion of Pisces is that we have to believe the right thing and then we make it to heaven. And if we're impure because we haven't done enough purification, we might as well go to hell. You may have heard about Jezebel, that horrific Babylonian priestess who wore makeup, and she was all into jewelry, and gets tossed out of the old window. So here's the point. We're resurrecting the Taurus age these weeks. That's Uranus, Venus, Pallas Athena on the moon's north node in Taurus. This is seeing through the senses. This is using the skin and pleasure and beauty, colors, sound, aroma to raise the level of our consciousness. It is absolutely spiritual. The symbol of Venus is the circle of spirit connected to the cross of matter. If there's any planet that most is connected to the human nature, it's Venus. Venus is life on earth, matter and spirit together. That's what the everything coming from these Babylonian Egyptian traditions are. The Ankh is Venus, matter, spirit. That's the glyph, that's the symbol. That's what we can be doing. Now, I like to use the Buddha as an example for Taurus. Buddha was trying to get enlightened, the old Scorpio ascetic. Starve yourself to enlightenment path. That's been the popular path out there in India and these traditions. Kind of masochistic. Cause pain to yourself in order to spiritually evolve. God doesn't want you to feel pleasure in your body. God is proud of you for sacrificing that. Well, it's not till a little girl brings the Buddha a bowl of rice. And that raises his consciousness and he achieves enlightenment. What does a bowl of rice do for you? Does it not comfort your stomach? Does it not make you feel more relaxed, especially if you've just been starving or fasting? This is enjoyment. This isn't hard. These years aren't about doing the hard path. This is about the easy path that works. That when we combine pleasure and enjoyment with empowerment to raise the level of our own consciousness, then we can become fountainheads for charity, creativity, sharing love and inspiration with others. So that's my rant. But this is, again, Venus on Uranus, June 11th, Venus on Pallas Athena, the 14th, Pallas on Uranus today, the 6th. There is this wisdom of Taurus. Taurus has historically been called superficial. Venus has historically been called what only goes skin deep. I am going to tell you that your skin is connected to your soul. Scorpio-Taurus polarity. You can work magic with the skin, body, flesh, somatic, essential oils, incenses, candles, salt baths in a way that are reintroducing the long-lost matriarchal wisdoms, which was a highly sexualized period of time because we did not separate sex from God. In the matriarchy, we understood sexuality and God to go together hand in hand. As we're pulling out of the delusional Pisces age, tail end of Pisces that's falling apart, entering into the Aquarius age, we can objectively see this truth. Aquarius is not about belief systems. It's about seeing. It's about science. It's about observing life for what it is, experimenting, testing to make sure. The proof is in the pudding. Now it's not just Venus again. Venus I wanted to highlight because there's major creative wisdom. This also, I focused on body senses. This is also land, agriculture, property. This is the time to do the permaculture community. This is the time to start teaching it, sharing it, putting out there. Do your new job. Form that new career. If it's aligned with Taurus, reintroducing these values I'm speaking to, the universe wants and will support this. Sure, it may take time. We don't always know what the future is. We never know what the future is. Heck, I don't predict the future. We talk about general movements, and if we're aligned with it, good. That's a reaffirmation that we're in the right place at the right time, and we can tune into these resources. We can have that affirmation that there's going to be resources in these areas. We have to change how we're relating to food, agriculture, money, the providing of fundamental resources. That's where we can be tremendously experimental, reinvent, reboot in ways that are going to be vastly improved. These days, if we're trying to do food, money, agriculture, property, job, payment in the same old, broken record, not working way, it's not going to work. We have to do something different. Something has to change. Uranus on the moon's north node all of this summer. And if we're a pioneer, if we're aligning with these things, y'all just watch. It's moving from one dimension to the next. It's extremely revolutionary, liberating, and it can be very exciting that we get to participate in this pioneering, inventing how humanity can connect in a new, improved way. Maybe that's going to involve this returning to the earth that I'm speaking to. Now, Mars, in his own sign, May 25th through July 5th. So you may have noticed, hey, I got more energy now. I'm doing more throughout the day. More ambition, more direction. That's Mars in his own sign. Now, the first sign of the zodiac, Aries, ruled by Mars, is extremely masculine, extremely instinctual, and extremely of the body, animal, lower nature, and wisdom. And just as a quick little aside, as a point here, we generalize by saying patriarchy was male gender and female gender was suppressed. That's true, but it's a part of patriarchy. The horned god, the masculine god, Pan, was also obviously turned into the devil and demonized. Pan is a highly masculine archetype. So when we're talking about Mars and Aries, we're now talking about another archetype that's been suppressed in patriarchy, although it is masculine. The animal instinctual wisdom. And we can think about the pagan traditions and how much they were demonized in the Pisces era. You're not supposed to have sex. I am an old priest. I come out of Pisces age stuff. That's why I have a working understanding of things. And I've also got my own karmic package. I have a highly afflicted Mars. I was raised in a family that taught me sex is bad, period. That's it. That's all I learned about sex growing up is sex is forbidden. It's evil. It's bad. Well, that really has an effect on a person when they're growing up, when their psyche is formed. And in my own experience, there is a deep frustration. Like you're cut off from life. You have no life force. You have no libido. You have no charge. Well, this is a part of the healing. Mars is going to join Chiron mid-June, and there is the healing of sexuality, libido, masculine instincts. This is also healing the courage to initiate our own path, to be a warrior, a leader, and confident, to go to the beat of our own drum. You know, I go where I want to go. No one's in my way. If I want it, I'm going to do it. Is Aries wisdom? Now, obviously, that Aries wisdom needs balance with Libra, receptivity, listening, and other people exist in our world. But we're healing Mars in June. See, end of May kicked off this Martian introduction of Jupiter and Aries. Jupiter and Aries is going to be this huge exploration of breaking in what's new, breaking in this new reality that we can be daring, we can take risks, we can do something that's very different outside of the box. Maybe such as breaking down our childhood conditioning around sexuality. Jupiter in Aries is going to open doors for self-exploration. And that self-exploration requires a freedom, an open road to honor those instincts, to explore those instincts. And of course, whenever I'm talking about this stuff, it is with consent, it's with care, it's with consideration, and no one's being harmed. That's common sense. But I have to say that a lot when these things get brought up. So Mars-Jupiter, start of June, is like this is being introduced. This is the one Mars-Jupiter pass in Aries. And it's happened. Have you seen it? Have you felt it, experienced it? This new direction. Again, leadership, different, risky, unusual, coming into this energy. What did we not get to explore? What was put on the back burner as a child? We get to come back to that now. Whatever, there's a phantom limb. And this agitation can be there. I haven't gotten to do that. I want to be selfish. Listen to that. It's not anti-spiritual to be selfish in the way that is honoring the individuality we have been born into. This is honoring God. This is honoring nature. The worship of your body is earth worship. We are made of the dust. We were born out of the earth. We're one with the cycles and seasons of the earth. There's no discrepancy here. If we're bringing our consciousness into our bodies through pleasure more, and we're doing it healthily and correctly, we become more aware of nature, the worlds. That's why it's really fascinating to see Taurus go so wrong, say out there in Wall Street, and these rich people that have no taste, they don't know how to enjoy. Are they going to be able to benefit other people? They don't know how to enjoy themselves. Do they know the discomfort that other people are experiencing when you have a billionaire that doesn't even know how to enjoy and is working all day in their cubicle desk job, believing that that is some service to humanity? There's a disconnect. The energy is inviting us to explore how to return to that connection, that excitement. This is going to be different for everybody. For somebody, it may be getting back to the gym. For some people, they dive in the ocean and they remember their lost part of themselves. Their dolphin consciousness returns. Some people are jumping out of airplanes and suddenly they have transformed their consciousness and they're more confident than they've ever been before. So that's going to be this Martian wisdom to go beyond superficial limitations, to break down and birth this new direction. That is Mars, the sword that separates us at the umbilical cord from our mothers, so we can be unique, autonomous, and individual, do our own thing. This will involve necessary separations for some souls, which can go hand in hand with liberation, getting your breath back. There's a lot of people moving out of congestion with the North Node in Taurus this year. Mercury just stationed direct in Taurus in the North Node. We covered this in the last video. It's a very scrutinizing mental understanding. This is what's working and this is what's not working at the start of June with Mercury square to Saturn. As Mercury moves into Gemini June 13th to July 5th, Venus will be in Gemini June 22nd through July 17th. Going into end of June into July is going to be much more social. We're forming the family, interconnecting. What are you interested in? How can we support each other? End of June into July, and then July into August, when we get into Leo season, is going to be much more outward, presenting, showcasing. But this is a new direction that's beginning summertime 2022. It's happening for each and every one of us in some way. This is why I love having an online community where we're all familiar with astrology. It's a really cool place to share our individual experiences of the collective. There's no knowledge of astrology required to do that. I'm happy to be the translator and the talking head. My only job is breaking apart the chunks into pieces. It's not woo-woo. Now the full moon in Sagittarius is at 23 degrees and square to Neptune, trine to Mars Chiron. Mars will be conjunct Chiron the same day, 15 degrees Aries. So again, this healing of the masculine, the confidence to initiate sexuality, wisdom of the body, instincts, pioneering wisdom. But then the full moon squares Neptune, and it's a little uncertain. Well, what is the overall truth? What is the overall orientation? This is going to require some exploration. And I think that if we embrace the excitement of exploration, as opposed to carrying the burden of completion, that's where we can really catch the wave of these incoming energies and go very far. This is the reality of desire. I feel like this is another workshop retreat because I open this can of worms and then realize it's like a whole book that needs to be written about desire. such a complex reality, the first sign of the zodiac and Mars. This is also where the experience of anger and frustration arises. There's always parts of archetypes I leave out in these videos because archetypes are so dense. I can't possibly talk every single word. I do my best to get them out there. Aries is about defending. Mars is about defending. So there's also this time to take a stand, time to fight for something. This is like women's rights, males' rights. There's going to be lots of gender stuff for gender healing with this Chiron in Aries. And what's so important is that we understand that the healing journey is going to be very different for different bodies and different genders. And I'm not leaving out all of the additional genders and possibilities that we're developing as our species and consciousness develops and expands. But let's be cut and dry. We're usually born into female or male gender, and there's going to be a lot of focusing on what is that vehicle you're born into, how can you use it to the best of your capability, and where are these discrepancies. What I'm noticing at the start of these long-term transits is men don't understand women and women don't understand men, generally, is just an objective fact of where we are as a species. There's a lot of discussion, a lot of experience, communication, interaction, learning through trial and error to be had. Generally, what I'm suggesting is being open to the exploration. It's about trying something out and seeing what happens. Sometimes we're going to meet a dead end. Sometimes it's not going to work out, and that's okay. That's kind of healing this Mars archetype. Because Mars is the eagle eye that single-pointedly focuses on a goal, a direction, a desire, and says, that's what I want. Get me that. I'm going to do that. And then we get experience. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. And that can be deeply frustrating to Mars. And Mars is learning to harness that desire, harness that raw energy to put into an engine like a locomotive and drive this machine forward. So it's not about always getting what we want instantly. We know that's not how life works. It's not about the quick fix or the easy win. This is going to be about healing our relationship to instincts, animal wisdom, bodily wisdom, the need to protect, stand up, and defend, which again can be triggered by anger or instincts. We never want to say anger is a negative thing. Man, have I had some bad experiences with my afflicted Mars, running into people who have the belief that anger shouldn't exist at all. It's not about not having anger. It's about how do we use it? Are we putting it into the locomotive machine, or are we burning down forests? Are we causing forest fires? Okay. So about what we get, when we get it, what we want, when we don't get it. We need patience. We need slowness. We need to be flexible. Take it all with a grain of salt. Allow yourself to explore, learn through trial and error. Doesn't have to happen overnight, but in accepting the experiment, Uranus on the moon's north node, Jupiter in Aries, being willing to take risks, being willing to do something different, even if it goes against the grain of what we've done in the past. That might be a little uncomfortable. That might be a little jittery and uncertain at first. This is how we're breaking the future in. This is about breaking in a future that has more possibilities that we knew were previously available, and that making our life better. We can enjoy more personally and help others more simultaneously. We can be richer in our life experience, and we can be more involved in reform and revolution simultaneously. Full moon in Sagittarius, this requires honesty. Again, a lot of these delusional paths that are recycling the past and not actually progressing, it's obvious, it's evident. You can measure stagnation and progress. So that's something to be aware of, Are we actually benefiting humanity? Or are we saying that we're benefiting humanity and really just focused on ourselves? What I'm putting out there is don't bullshit. Don't be inauthentic. You don't have to pretend that you're not self-interested. Be self-interested, be authentic, don't bullshit, make your life pleasurable and enjoyable, and you can also be aware of what benefits our humanity and is providing general goodness and social welfare simultaneously. See this full moon as an exploration. Have some good discussions. It's going to bring up philosophies, belief systems, and that is, again, some of the bottom line, what's going to allow us to step into new possibilities. Folks, you can join my Astro School. I just finished the lesson on the moon's nodes through all the zodiac polarities, all the house sign polarities. This is some of the most useful information that you can know about your birth chart. If you're not familiar, you may want to check it out. I also offer a monthly Q&A. You can bring in your birth chart, ask any question. I do a mini chart reading for every person in my Q&A once a month. So I'm here, I'm available. You're welcome to learn astrology, and I'd love to see more people talking about the cycles and the bits and pieces, how they all relate in the future. So I'll catch you all there. As always, take care.